Hi there, this is Chris, Chapman Cap Motor Legends. This morning I want to talk to you about EN17092 and why it's not what you think it is. Now, this is not a sexy subject, but it's an important subject because a lot of people are spending a lot of money buying what they deem to be or what they think is highly protective wear, where often that's absolutely not the case. Now, it's a dull subject, but it's an important subject, and this is a video that you need to watch. EN17092 was a safety standard for motorcycle apparel that came into force in 2020. Garments are awarded accreditation at the single A, the double A or the triple A level, depending upon how they perform in a series of prescribed tests. Single A is the lowest standard, triple A is the highest standard. In some ways it replaced the more demanding standard known as EN13595 that was originally set up for professional riders such as the police. But so difficult was that standard to meet that few garments ever measured up. So in the consumer market it became somewhat of a novelty rather than a meaningful aspiration. I estimate that probably less than 50 products ever met the standard, so it was largely disregarded. Now, it was the French who led a charge for a new standard, and eventually, after lobbying, that idea was picked up by Brussels and work began to create a new standard that would become mandatory for any manufacturer wanting to sell motorcycle wear within the EU. But even though in the early days the French politicians had pointed out the high death toll amongst motorcyclists on French roads, most people now accept that the standard was more about protecting EU economies rather than EU motorcyclists. The standard was to become a classic example of what economists call a barrier to entry. That is to say, it's an administrative hurdle designed to make it difficult for companies outside an economic unit to compete within that market. Technically, it has to be acknowledged, attaining the new standard EN17092 is not particularly difficult, but the bureaucracy involved, the admin, the access to test facilities and the costs have been enough to put off many companies outside of the EU. And so from the politician's perspective, the politician's point of view, the scheme has worked. All kinds of companies from countries like the US, Australia and Japan have taken the view that the costs required to pass EN17092 simply outweigh the benefits. So many brands that were available from those countries, like America, like Australia, like Japan, are no longer available within the EU. Now, I'm not saying that EN17092 is without merit. It's a standard, and without doubt it has cleaned the market of that poor quality clothing that purported to protect motorcyclists but actually did little more than look the part. So EN17092 was not and is not a waste of time. It has set a bar, and that's got to be good for motorcyclists. But as ever, the standard has been misinterpreted, by some through ignorance, by others through design. It has become in effect a marketing tool for brands wanting to make claims about their product's ability to protect riders, and those claims are often simply not justified and often are just misleading. The bottom line is that EN17092 is actually little more than an elaborate abrasion test. It's a standard that tests the outer shell of motorcycle garments for abrasion resistance, for tear resistance, and for the strength of the seams in a garment. And that's about it. That's in essence what EN17092 does. We're not suggesting, of course, that abrasion resistance is not important. Nobody likes the idea of losing skin as they slide down the road. If that sliding goes on for too long, you'll quickly be through to the skin, then down to muscle, cartilage, and eventually bone. Now, the results are never a nice sight. It can hurt like hell. It can take a long time to recover from, and of course can require painful skin grafts. But in a motorcycle accident, this is not normally what kills us or leaves us with life-changing injuries. And that's because in a road accident, we don't tend to slide that far. Sliding, as one wag once put it, is not a problem. It's the stopping that's the problem. It's when we hit things that we really do ourselves damage. It could be a road surface as we hide side off the bike and land on our shoulders. It could be a tree, a car, a lorry, a lamppost, a wall or a curb. Indeed, anything that is solid and unyielding. And frankly, it matters not what the EN17092 rating of a garment is when this is the outcome. It matters not whether it's an A garment, a double A garment or a triple A garment. A stronger, more abrasion fabric will not have a bearing on the situation. in such cases it's the armour that counts. Now for motorcycle clothing you get protectors for the elbows, the shoulders, the knees, the hips, the chest and the back. And their role is to absorb the energy of an impact. All protectors are designed to protect specific bones and joints, including of course the spine. And by reducing the energy of an impact, armour not only plays a crucial role in preventing fractures and breaks, but also in reducing internal injuries. Yet armour warrants little more than a passing mention under EN17092. The legislation states that a pant above the single A level has to also come with hips. It says that all jackets have to come with elbow and shoulder protectors. It specifies the minimum sizes that are required in a garment, but it makes no mention of a back protector even in the highest AAA rated garment, nor does the standard make any mention of level 1 armour versus level 2 armour. But if you are seeking a higher level of protection, I assure you, you want level 2 armour because level 2 armour absorbs twice as much energy as level 1 armour. And it's for these reasons that I think we cannot suggest that EN17092 is a serious safety standard. It is, as we've suggested, largely an abrasion standard. And as we've seen, that's just not the entire picture. Problem here is that when people are buying their gear, they have simply assumed that a AA rated garment is going to be safer and more protective to ride in than a single A rated garment, and that a AAA rated jacket or pant is going to be safer to ride in than a AA rated jacket or pant, and certainly more protective and safer than a single A rated jacket or pant. But that is actually a long way from being the reality. There'll be many cases where AA garments are more protective than AAA garments. The same actually goes for single A rated garments. There'll be some A rated garments that are more protective than AA rated garments or even AAA rated garments. And that's because the armour plays such a fundamental and crucial role in protecting the rider. And so in some accidents, an AA rated jacket with a back protector will be more protective than a AAA rated jacket without a back protector. So how about an A rated jacket with a level 2 back protector and level 2 armour throughout? Such a jacket will be much more protective than an AAA rated jacket like this one that comes with fairly diminutive level 1 armour in the elbows and shoulders and no back protector whatsoever. There's another issue, and it's the size of the armour. Now, this admittedly is a level 1 protector from D3O. We love D3O, but it is what it is. You will find a level 1 protector like this in some AA rated jackets. This, by contrast, is a level 2 rated protector from Stadler. This piece of armour actually exceeds the highest level 2 by 60%. In an accident, this one is going to absorb much more energy and provide much more protection than this one. If we look at jeans or pants, this armour, level 1 armour, comes in a Dainese AAA rated jean. Here is a level 2 protector, level 1, level 2. Here's a level 2 protector that comes in a Halvarsen AA rated pant. Which do you think would absorb more energy? And then there's this one. This is a piece of level 2 armour, exceeds level 2 by 60%, comes from Stadler. Obviously that's going to absorb even more energy. Yet none of these issues form any part of EN17092. As another example, here's a level 2 shoulder protector from an A-rated rucker jacket. It's simply enormous. It gives you complete coverage of the entire shoulder area. That protector is going to give you far more protection than this also level 2 protector from this AA rated Alpenstars jacket, as you can see. And so we ask the question, how can 17092 be taken particularly seriously as an all-encompassing safety standard when it takes no heed whatsoever of chest and back protectors? It doesn't take into consideration whether the armour is level 1 or level 2 and does not factor in the size of the protectors in a garment. There is of course one final irony to all of this. 17092, as we've suggested, concerns itself almost exclusively with abrasion resistance and what happens to the outer shell of a garment when you slide down the road. But armour, as was documented in a well-known Australian study, plays a hugely significant role in abrasion resistance. We've seen lots of garments over the years that have worn through in an accident. We have never seen a protector that has worn through. Wherever you wear a protector, you will significantly increase the abrasion resistance of the garment in that area. A level 2 protector is going to give you more abrasion resistance than a level 1 protector, and a large protector is going to give you more abrasion resistance than a smaller one. And so even when it comes down to abrasion resistance alone, EN17092 still only tells half the story. Despite the somewhat dubious motivations that lay behind EN17092, we applaud the standard. It's not nothing. Okay, so it's impacted a little on the choice that we have here in the market, but undoubtedly 17092 has kept out of the EU many garments that were wholly inadequate, and that's a good thing. But companies and organisations have a propensity to deconstruct complex subjects in order to convey whatever message suits their own purposes. So don't fall for the simplistic suggestion that somebody's AAA rated jacket or pants is safer than somebody else's AA rated or single A rated jacket or pants. It's simply never that cut and dried. Even the writers of the EN17092 standard acknowledge that AAA garments wouldn't be comfortable to ride in. And that's why we have no qualms in championing this Rucker single A rated Nivala jacket. You see, it comes with huge level 2 armour throughout, an enormous back protector, that large shoulder protector I showed you, large elbow protectors, plus a big back protector and a chest protector. Because of the stretch in the fabric, which is why it's been downgraded from AA to single A, it is an insanely comfortable jacket to wear. But because of the armour, there aren't many jackets that I'd rather wear in an accident. Many motorcyclists reject the Nivala, however, because they cannot see past the single A rating. A lot of people, it would seem, are more interested in ticking boxes than in getting to understand how gear works. They don't understand the limitations of EN17092, and so they'll often end up buying a suit that's far less comfortable than the Nivala, but also nowhere near as protective if they do have an accident. Now, recently, a national insurance company set up an award scheme with the stated aim of highlighting the safest, most protective products in the market. In my view, that was a cynical exercise in virtue signalling. That company is not intending, or was not intending, to invest a single penny in independent research. Upon registration by the brand, they would award a gold badge or a gold star, whatever it was, to any garment that was rated AAA under EN17092. But as we have seen, EN17092 is not an all-encompassing safety standard or even an indicator as to how a garment will perform in an accident. It's just about the outer chassis. So any scheme that's based on EN17092 is, I'm afraid, flawed. And we object strongly to this scheme because it is totally misleading. We understand the appeal, of course, of a scheme that requires no financial investment and no effort. But we don't think it's on, because people would assume that if a national or a nationwide organisation issues a safety award, there'll be something to back it up. And I'm afraid in this case, there simply isn't. Of course, there are many other considerations when it comes to riding safely. Here at Motor Legends as a company, we are not big on chasing AAA rated garments because all too often they are not particularly nice to ride in. We are, however, particular proponents of a concept known as passive safety. Now, passive safety is all about being comfortable on the bike, about being dry when it's wet, about being warm when it's cold, and about being cool when it's hot, and about not being so encumbered that if something goes wrong, we can't react. It's a more subtle approach than the pursuit of what might be termed active safety, that is heavier and stronger materials. It requires more thought and a better understanding as to what keeps us safe when we're out on the bike. But unfortunately, you can't achieve it merely by ticking boxes.